Picture a monastery library in Constantinople, the year 447 AD. A monk sits by candlelight, carefully removing pages from a manuscript, not damaged pages, not heretical pages, but pages containing a teaching so practical, so accessible, so powerful that if common people knew it, they would never need the institutional church again. The pages describe one simple food, a food Jesus told his disciples to keep in their homes at all times, not for nutrition, not for sustenance, but for something the church fathers understood would make every Christian a priest in their own household. That monk burned those pages, but he made one mistake. He wrote 3 words in the margin of another text before he destroyed the original. Remember the bread. For 16 centuries, scholars assumed this was about communion. They were wrong. Tonight, you're going to discover what Jesus actually said about the one food that changes everything. And if you are watching this at this exact hour, if something pulled you to this video when you could be watching anything else, that is not an accident. Comment, "I am ready right now," and make sure you subscribe because what you are about to learn has been actively suppressed, and this video may not stay visible for long. Your grandmother knew something. Maybe she could not articulate it. Maybe she never read the hidden Gospels or studied ancient Aramaic, but she knew there was one food she always kept in her home. One food she made sure never ran out. One food she treated differently than everything else in her kitchen. And when crisis came, when sickness arrived, when fear knocked on the door, she went to that food first. Not to the phone, not to the medicine cabinet. To that food. The church told you this was superstition, folk belief, old wives' tales. But your grandmother was carrying a fragment of the original teaching. A teaching that goes back to a private conversation Jesus had with his disciples in an upper room. Not the upper room where the Last Supper happened. A different room, a smaller gathering. This conversation is not recorded in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, but it is preserved in a text that was buried in Egypt alongside the Nag Hammadi Library, a text called the Gospel of the Sacred Household. Scholars barely mention it because it does not fit their theological frameworks. It is too domestic, too practical, too ordinary. And that is exactly why it is extraordinary. Because Jesus did not just teach about heaven. He taught about earth, about how to live in a body, about how to create a home that vibrates at a frequency the dark forces cannot penetrate. In this teaching, one of the disciples, specifically Salome, asks Jesus a direct question. She says, "Teacher, we cannot always be in the temple. We cannot always be in prayer. When we return to our homes, to our families, to the ordinary world, how we maintain the connection? How do we keep the light burning?" And Jesus does not give her a parable. He does not tell her a story. He gives her a specific instruction. He says, "Let there always be bread in your home, not the bread of affliction, not the bread of slavery, but bread made with intention, bread broken with gratitude, bread that reminds you that the Father provides. When bread is present, lack cannot enter. When bread is honored, fear cannot take root." Most Christians hear this and immediately think of communion, of a Eucharist, of the symbolism of Christ as the bread of life. But Jesus was not speaking symbolically in this moment. He was giving a practical technology, a tool that operates on both the physical and spiritual plane simultaneously. Bread is not just food. Bread is the most ancient symbol of sufficiency humanity has ever known. Every culture that advanced beyond mere survival did. So when they mastered grain, when they learned to store it, when they learned to transform it, bread meant you would not starve tomorrow. Bread meant you had margin. Bread meant you had enough, not just for yourself, but enough to share. Bread was the original abundance signal. Now, take a slow breath. In through your nose, deep into your belly. Hold it for a moment. Feel your lungs expand. Release slowly through your mouth. What I am about to share requires your full presence because this is where the spiritual and the material worlds intersect. In the Gospel of Thomas, saying 68, Jesus says, "Blessed are you when you are hated and persecuted. Wherever you have been persecuted, they will find no place." Scholars have debated this for decades. What does it mean they will find no place? The Gnostic teachers understood. When your household operates on the frequency of sufficiency, when the symbol of provision is tangibly present, the frequency of lack has nowhere to anchor. The archons, those forces that feed on human desperation, cannot find a foothold. This is not superstition. This is energy mechanics. Everything in the universe operates on frequency. Emotions have frequency. Thoughts have frequency. And physical objects, especially objects invested with intention, hold and broadcast frequency. When you keep bread in your home, when you refresh it regularly, when you handle with awareness of what it represents, you are not just storing carbohydrates. You are installing a broadcasting device that says to every seen and unseen force, this is a household of provision. This is a household of sufficiency. Lack is not welcome here. But the church could not allow this teaching to spread. Do you understand why? Because it made the temple unnecessary. It made the priest non-essential. It put spiritual authority back into the hands of ordinary people, specifically women, who ran the households. Salome asked a question. Mary Magdalene is recorded in 3 separate suppressed texts as being the one who taught this practice to the early communities. Women were the keepers of the hearth. Women were the ones who determined what came into the home and what stayed out. And this terrified the emerging patriarchal church structure. So they did what they always do. They took the teaching and contained it. They moved bread into the ritual space where only priests could bless it, only priests could distribute it, and only on their terms. They turned living practice into dead ceremony. But they could never fully kill it because grandmothers kept baking. Mothers kept teaching their daughters. And in Jewish households, in Muslim households, in pagan households that became Christian households, the practice survived in fragments. The Shabbat Challah, the daily pita, the sourdough starter passed down through generations like a living inheritance. These were not just recipes. These were carriers of the original frequency. Let me take you deeper. In the economic system you were born into, scarcity is the engine. You are taught from childhood that there is not enough money, not enough time, not enough resources, not enough love. This fear of not enough drives you to compete, to hoard, to compromise your values, to accept conditions you would otherwise reject. The entire structure depends on your belief in scarcity. But here is what they do not want you to realize. Scarcity is a frequency before it is a condition. You experience lack in your physical reality because you are vibrating at the frequency of lack in your consciousness. And that frequency is reinforced every single day by 100 invisible messages. The news tells you resources are running out. The economy tells you to panic and protect. Advertising tells you that you are incomplete without their product. All of it, every bit of it, is broadcasting one message. Not enough, not enough, not enough. And your nervous system, your energetic field, your entire being starts to resonate with that frequency. When you resonate with scarcity, you become a magnet for scarcity experiences. This is not punishment. This is physics, like frequencies attract. Now, imagine a different frequency. The frequency of enough. Not excess, not greed, not hoarding. Simply enough. Enough for today. Enough to share. Enough to meet the need in front of you. This is the frequency bread carries. In the Lord's Prayer, the one prayer Jesus specifically taught, what does he say? Give us this day our daily bread. Not our yearly bread. Not our stockpile bread. Our daily bread. Enough for today. The manna in the wilderness operated on this same principle. The Israelites were given exactly what they needed for one day. When they tried to hoard it, it rotted. The teaching is clear. Sufficiency is a flow, not a storage. But you must have a receiver for that flow. You must have something in your physical reality that says, I am open to provision. I trust the flow. I have what I need. That receiver is bread, not metaphorical bread. Actual bread in your actual home. Here is the practice exactly as it was preserved. Step 1. Obtain or make bread with intention. If you make it yourself, the potency increases, but this is not required. What matters is that you acquire the bread with awareness. As you purchase it or as you mix the dough, you speak these words silently or aloud. This bread represents a provision that flows to me and through me. I do not lack. I will not lack. I have enough. Step 2. Designate a place for the bread. Not just thrown in a drawer. Not tossed on the counter. A specific place, even if it is simple. A bread box. a particular shelf, a cloth-covered basket. This place becomes the altar of sufficiency in your home. Step 3. Never let the place be empty. Before the last of the bread is consumed, you replace it. You refresh it. This is not about waste. Bread can be given to birds, to neighbors, to strangers. What matters is that the space is never empty. The flow never stops. Step 4, and this is critical. Every time you take bread, you acknowledge the provision. You do not grab it mindlessly. You pause. You touch it. You say thank you, not to the bread, but through the bread to the source that provides all things. This acknowledgement completes the circuit. It keeps the frequency active. I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too simple. This sounds like magical thinking. But let me ask you this. Why do you light candles? Why do you wear crosses? Why do you hang symbols on your walls? Because humans have always understood that physical objects can carry spiritual significance. The church taught you this with their relics, their icons, their blessed items. They just did not want you to know you could activate the same power without their permission. Bread is the original blessed object. It requires no priest. It requires no ritual beyond your own awareness. And it works whether you fully believe it or not, because it operates on principles deeper than belief. It operates on resonance. Let me tell you what happens when you begin this practice. Within the first week, most people report a subtle shift, not a lottery win, not a miracle, but a shift. Something they needed appears. A bill they were worried about gets resolved. An unexpected check arrives. An opportunity opens. Small things, undeniable things. But the rational mind dismisses them as coincidence. By the second week, the shift deepens. You notice you are not as worried about money. Not because your bank account changed dramatically, but because the anxiety frequency has less grip on you. You start to see provision where you previously saw only lack. By the third week, something remarkable happens. Other people start to notice. They comment that you seem different, calmer, more grounded. They cannot articulate what changed, but they feel it. And here is where it gets really interesting. People start showing up at your door, not in creepy ways, but friends drop by unexpectedly. Neighbors start conversations. Family reaches out. Your home becomes a gathering place. Why? Because it is broadcasting a frequency that humans are starving for. The frequency of enough. The frequency of welcome. The frequency of safety. Bread has always been the symbol of hospitality. Every ancient culture knew this. You break bread with someone, you are saying, "You are safe here. You will not go hungry in my presence. What I have, I will share." This is not just nice behavior. This is a technology for creating community, for building networks of mutual support that make you independent of corrupt systems. The Gospel of the Sacred Household records that after Jesus gave this teaching, Salome asked a follow-up question. She said, "Teacher, what if someone has no home? What if someone has no place to keep bread?" And Jesus answered, "Then they must become the bread. They must embody provision so fully that wherever they go, lack cannot remain. But for those who have even a small room, even a corner they can call their own, let bread be there. Let it be a testimony. Let it be a reminder. Let it be a beacon." This teaching was not for the wealthy. It was specifically for the ordinary, for the struggling, for those who felt the system was crushing them. Because the system wants you to believe you are powerless. The system wants you to believe change only comes from external forces, from institutions, from someone else's permission. But Jesus consistently taught the opposite. The kingdom of God is within you. The power to change your reality starts in your own consciousness, in your own home, in your own hands. One food, one practice, one frequency shift. That is all it takes to begin. And now, let's talk about what comes next. Because the moment you place bread in your home with intention, a new awareness begins to awaken inside of you. It is subtle at first, like the warmth of sunlight on your skin when you step outside in the early morning. You may not notice it immediately, but over time, the awareness grows. You will catch yourself observing your thoughts about scarcity and realizing they are no longer yours. They are echoes from the past, the old programming, the voice of fear masquerading as logic. You will notice that the tightness in your chest, the constant worrying about money or food, begins to soften. Your body relaxes into a knowing that something deeper is moving through you. This is not magical thinking. This is not wishful imagination. This is a law of resonance and action. You are no longer aligning with lack. You are no longer tuning yourself to the frequency that screams, there is not enough. Instead, you are stepping into a new signal, a new pattern, a new code. There's always enough. And the universe responds, not because it owes you something, but because you become a living transmitter of sufficiency. The signal you emit changes everything around you. The bread in your home is your antenna. It is your declaration to the world. Abundance lives here. Fear cannot penetrate here. Lack has no invitation. And do not underestimate the power of this. There are forces seen and unseen that are drawn to alignment. When you resonate with abundance, doors open where walls once stood. Opportunities appear where there seemed to be nothing. People show up who are ready to support you. Resources arrive that you never imagined. Sometimes they arrive as the obvious. A friend sharing a meal, an unexpected check in the mail, a grocery item left behind that fits perfectly with what you need. Other times, they arrive in ways so subtle you might almost dismiss them if you weren't paying attention. But you will learn to notice. You will develop the eyes to see these miracles woven into the fabric of everyday life. Now, this practice is deceptively simple, and that is exactly why it works. Complexity keeps the power out of your hands. Complexity keeps you dependent. Complexity makes you believe that you must earn, negotiate, or struggle for every morsel. But simplicity is freedom. Simplicity is sovereignty. Anyone can place bread on a shelf, in a bowl, or on a plate, and declare sufficiency in their home. And yet, when done with intention, it is no small act. It is profound. It is a signal that reverberates beyond your walls, beyond your family, beyond your community. The frequency you establish touches unseen dimensions. It communicates to forces of provision, to energies of abundance, and to the deeper parts of yourself that have been waiting for this activation. You may wonder, why bread? Why this simple, humble, ordinary food? Because bread is the foundation of nourishment. It is sustenance. It is the universal symbol of provision. And yet, in its simplicity, it contains profound truth that what sustains life does not need be extravagant. What is essential is often simple, accessible, and free. Bread is humble. Bread is unassuming. Bread is the quiet witness of sufficiency. When you honor it, you honor the principle of life itself, that there is always enough to sustain. And as you practice this, watch how your perception begins to change. You will no longer measure abundance solely by the numbers in your bank account or the size of your pantry. Abundance will become the feeling in your body, the ease in your mind, the generosity in your actions. You will notice that you no longer cling to what you have. You will notice that sharing becomes natural. That is a third sign of the frequency shifting. Generosity without expectation. You give because giving is your natural state. You share because abundance cannot be contained. Scarcity clutches and hoards. Abundance flows. And the more you embody this, the more the flow accelerates. You will see it in your life, in your relationships, in your finances, and in the very texture of your days. Let me tell you something else that happens when you align with sufficiency. The noise of the world begins to quiet. You stop being pulled by every scarcity-driven story around you. You stop feeling the need to compete, compare, or covet. You begin to move through life with a sense of ease, a sense of clarity, a sense of sovereignty. The world may still scream, not enough, but you do not answer. You do not participate in that vibration. You rise above it. You walk in a space where provision is guaranteed because you are no longer asking for it. You are embodying it. And here's the beautiful part. This does not require perfection. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need to have a flawless pantry or a perfect ritual. What matters is intention. What matters is awareness. What matters is the conscious act of placing bread in your home and declaring, this is a household provision. Scarcity is not welcome here. That is the activation. That is the key. The act itself, infused with awareness, is enough to begin the transformation. Expect synchronicities. Expect surprises. Expect that things will show up exactly when you need them, Notice how the universe arranges circumstances to meet you halfway. Notice the invitations, the unexpected offerings, the solutions that appear as if by magic. That is not magic. That is alignment. That is you becoming a resonator of sufficiency, a living conduit for provision, a magnet for what you need. And yet, this is not about passive waiting. The frequency of enough requires participation. You must honor the bread. You must care for it. You must acknowledge it. You must make it sacred in your daily life. Not through ritualistic superstition, but through conscious practice. Wash your hands before handling it. Place it in a clean, respected space. Speak to it if you feel called. Thank it. Let it remind you daily that sufficiency is your natural state. Let it serve as a living signal, a beacon, a transmitter of abundance. You may encounter resistance. The logical mind will question. The old programming will scoff. The conditioned voices will whisper, "This is trivial. This is silly. This won't work." Recognize them for what they are, echoes of fear, shadows of scarcity trying to reclaim you, and do not engage in argument. Do not wrestle with them. Simply return to the practice. Place the bread. Honor it. Share it. Let the act itself speak louder than doubt. Over time, the practice becomes a new habit, a new neural pathway, a new resonance. You begin to live from the frequency of enough, not from the anxiety of lack. And as your frequency rises, you will notice another remarkable effect. Your relationships change. People are drawn to your energy. Those who resonate with sufficiency, with generosity, with ease, naturally gravitate toward you. Those still operating in fear may initially resist, but even they cannot help but notice a shift. Your home becomes a sanctuary of provision, and your presence becomes a living testament to abundance. You do not need to explain. You do not need to convince. The energy itself communicates truth. Remember, this is not about hoarding. This is not about perfectionism. This is not about scarcity dressed up as spirituality. The bread is not a talisman to ward off hunger. It is a decoration. It is a signal. It is a practice that aligns you with the universal truth that there is always enough. And when you live from that truth, everything else falls into place. Your finances, your health, your work, your relationships, your inner peace. So I urge you, do not delay. Do not wait for the perfect moment, the perfect loaf, the perfect conditions. Start today. Place bread in your home. Honor it consciously. Share it freely. Declare sufficiency. Feel it in your body. Speak in your words. Let it move through your hands. Let it move through your heart. And watch how the world begins to rearrange itself around you. The early teachers, the wise ones, the grandmothers and grandfathers who practiced fragments of this wisdom, they all knew, even if only intuitively, that provision is a frequency. That abundance is a vibration. That sufficiency is a state of being, not a matter of circumstance. And tonight, this teaching has returned to you in full. The seed is planted. The activation has begun. What blooms from here is entirely up to you. But know this, the moment you honor the bread, you are no longer waiting. You are no longer pleading. You are no longer aligning with lack. You are already enough. You are already abundant. You are already a magnet for provision. Go now. Place the bread. Let the frequency move through you. Let it move through your home. Let it ripple outward. And remember, every act of acknowledgement, every moment of gratitude, every gesture of sharing amplifies the signal. Every act reinforces the truth. There's always enough. You are always enough. The universe is always enough. And with each day that passes, you will notice it more, feel it more, live it more. And in this simplicity lies your power. In this humility lies your sovereignty. In this practice lies the ultimate declaration. I am abundant. I am sufficient. I am whole. I am free. And from this place, you can face the world without fear, without scarcity, without worry. You can walk with ease. You can give freely. You can receive without guilt. You can live fully. Place the bread. Honor it. Share it. Let sufficiency become your language, your rhythm, your truth. And never forget, abundance is simple, accessible, and free. The most profound truths always are. Now, Let me address the resistance that is rising in some of you right now. Thoughts are appearing. Thoughts that say this is silly. Thoughts that say you will try it, but it will not work. Thoughts that say you are too logical for this. Notice those thoughts. Do not fight them, but recognize they are not coming from your highest self. They are coming from a part of you that has been conditioned to dismiss anything that puts power back in your hands. The system trained you well. It trained you to mock the simple, to demand the complicated, to believe that truth must be difficult, expensive, or require an expert. But the most powerful truths are always simple. They are always accessible, and they are always free. Bread costs almost nothing. The practice requires no special skill. Anyone can do this. That is exactly why it was hidden. Let me give you the 3 signs that this practice is working. The first sign is synchronicity around food. You will notice that meals appear when you need them. Invitations come at the right time. Groceries stretch further than they should. This is not imagination. This is the sufficiency frequency reorganizing your material reality. The second sign is decreased anxiety about the future. The knot in your stomach when you think about money starts to loosen, not because your circumstances suddenly became perfect, but because you are no longer resonating with the fear frequency. You have installed a new signal. The third sign is increased generosity. You will find yourself giving more freely, not from obligation, but from genuine abundance. You will buy the coffee for the person behind you. You will slip money to someone who needs it. You will share your food without calculating the cost. This is the ultimate proof that the frequency has shifted. Scarcity hoards. Abundance shares. If this teaching has activated something in you, if you feel the truth of it, even if your rational mind is skeptical, comment the words, "I have enough" below. Speak it into existence. Let other people who are hungry for this teaching find this video through your engagement. Subscribe right now because the algorithms suppress content like this. They do not want you to find the simple answers. They profit from your confusion, from your dependence, from your fear. Every subscriber is a vote against that system. Like this video, so others who are searching in the middle of the night, who are worried about provision, who are tired of lack, can find their way here. Share it with one person who needs to hear this. Just one. That is how the early church actually spread, not through institutions. Through one person telling another, "I found something that works." Here is the practice. Bread in your home, refreshed regularly, honored consciously, shared freely. Not the bread of religious ritual, the bread of practical sufficiency, the bread that says to every force, seen and unseen, this is a household provision. Lack is not welcome here. Jesus taught this to Salome in an upper room 2,000 years ago. Your grandmother practiced a fragment of it without knowing its full power. And tonight, you receive the complete teaching. What you do with it now is up to you. But know this. The moment you place bread in your home with intention, everything begins to shift. Not someday, not eventually, immediately, because you are no longer asking for provision. You are declaring it. You are embodying it. You are becoming the frequency of enough. Go now and let there always be bread in your home.